Welcome back everyone to our gameplay series of Pure Farming 2018. And before we get started, first of all I want to apologize for my voice. I'm sure it's going to sound a little bit weak today. If you follow us on Twitter at Knee-Pit Gaming, which by the way is a great way to keep up with some news and updates, because anytime that I'm not going to be able to post any videos, maybe for that day or maybe even for a few days that I would normally be planning to post content to the channel, I try to post on there and let you guys know. So if you want to keep the most up-to-date information, then at Knee-Pit Gaming on Twitter is definitely the way to do it. So I posted on there yesterday that there was not going to be any videos on Monday simply because the sickness, specifically stomach virus, has gone through our family, and I'm over the worst of it and I'm trying to recover, but I'm still really weak. So I'm hoping that my voice will actually last through this entire video. I'm hoping this and planning for this to be a shorter video, because our main goal in today's video is to take care of this one vineyard. We want to see how profitable grapes are. Are they closer to what we got with olives, which was terrible and horrible and definitely not something that you'd want to do for profit? Or are they much closer to what we've run into with things like cherries and oranges and so on, where we've made a good deal of profit, even to the point of making back our entire purchase price for the orchard or the vineyard or whatever on the initial sale. So that in and of itself is really why we're here. So before we get into actually doing any work here and trying to take care of these, so the grapes, this is definitely a different look for me than what I've seen in real life. I had mentioned in the previous video that all of this space in between right here would have been covered with vines, and that's where you would be getting the grapes from. But this is a very different thing. So all of these are contained right here on the bushes or trees or whatever you want to call these. So obviously it's a different dynamic in Italy than it is here in Tennessee for us. So this would appear to be pretty simple. I don't really see any grapes up higher in the trees. All of them seem to be right down at the very bottom. So this should be pretty simple, and kind of makes it a little bit odd as to the type of machine we're having to use, since we're sharing this with the same machine that can do the olives as well. So this should be pretty simple, and I'm interested to see. Again, based on the fact that the olives were not very profitable at all. Let's go ahead and see. Now we can run this bush flat over. Alright, there we go. Let's see if we can get this thing lined up. Now the latest Windows update has messed up quite a few things on not only the PC but in games, and I'm sure some of you have already experienced this as well. So hopefully everything with the recording comes out as it is supposed to. Let's see. Okay, yeah, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, we are actually harvesting grapes, and if I look on, yeah, I don't see any grapes remaining that we've gone by, so everything seems to be going pretty good so far. I like it. We'll also keep track and see just how many times that we're going to have to stop and empty out our harvester before we continue. Right now it doesn't appear as though one row is going to give us very many grapes. Okay, let's go ahead and turn off the working just long enough for us to turn this thing around. This thing does not want to turn very well at all. Not sure why. Wow, I mean, that's terrible. Come on, turn around thing. We could definitely use some better handling on this thing. Alright, there we go. So you can see as we harvest the grapes, just as with the olives, they dump out on either side of the harvester into these areas, which is the same areas where we will be dumping them out. Actually right over there in front of us to sell. So we're not going to have very far to go And it's looking like we're going to be able to go quite a while in this harvester without having to go and empty it, which could be both good and bad. Again, it does appear that the harvester is capable. Alright, you can see the harvester goes up every time that we start to harvest, and there we go. So about 6 miles an hour is as fast as we can go, because I am definitely holding down the throttle as far as I can. Let's get a first person look at this. This would seem to be kind of hard to do in real life from this perspective. I would be basically freaking out every time I went over these things, thinking that I am, you know, going to have one of these trees that's going to come right through the floor of the machine. So that definitely would not be for me in real life. I'd have to get used to that. Alright. Boy, this is a great view right here. Great view. I don't think we could get any better than that. It's just a tree, you know. Oh my goodness. Come on now. Work with me. Turn thing. Alright, there we go. We should be back in business, I think. Yeah, so we're at 3,000 pounds right now, and we are on lane number 4. Now, we got a bunch of lanes, but so it does look like we're eventually going to have to empty this thing one time, but then that's probably going to be about it. We're going to empty it one time, come back, and then finish up with the rest, is at least my guess anyway. But yeah, for some reason this thing just does not turn very well. And of course I have placed our water tank right in the perfect location to keep us from being able to turn where we want to. The handling on the vehicles overall in this game just seems to be a little wonky overall. And this one seems to definitely fit in with that. Because it doesn't turn, but whenever it does, it seems like it's got way too much momentum. It just slides from side to side. Alright, so far so good. So we're now closing in on 4,700 and 4,800 pounds worth of grapes, which seems like a lot of grapes to me. Hopefully we're going to get a lot of money for them. Alright, here we go with the camera angles again. We'll wear out the hydraulics. Just turning this thing on and off between rows. Okay, now over 5,000 pounds. So we're a little bit over halfway now. So the volume would seem to be fairly low of grapes overall. So now we're just going to have to figure and hope that the grapes are worth quite a bit for each. Because if they're not, then we're going to be looking at a situation. Alright, let's see what we can do if I just leave this thing on this time. See, this thing loves to stop on its own, because I have not touched the brakes at all. I really couldn't tell a whole lot of difference there, so probably I'll just keep this thing on instead of stopping it from working each time I try to turn. Alright, now we're getting there. 6,600 pounds. Turn, turn, turn. Yeah, these front wheels are not turning very much. All right, there we go. All right, so now we're right at 7,000 pounds. I forget exactly what the capacity for this thing is, but we'll be there shortly. And now you can see why I said, you know, we've managed to come this far through the vineyard and have yet to fill it up the first time. So that leads me to believe that once we do, here within the next row or so, in fact, I'll tell you what, this is a pretty good place to stop. Might as well go ahead and stop now. And while we're headed this direction, let's just go ahead and come over here and dump these out and see how much money we get. We're not quite full, but we don't have enough room, I don't think, for another round. So let's just see what we get. All right, now it would seem like I need to be backing up to this thing if that's where we're going to drop, which could be a bit of a chore. Nope, it's going to let me by with it. So it's just going to let me dump them out here on the ground for the most part. All right, how much money we get from that? Oof, 3,300. Yep, this is going to be just like the olives. Yep, so how about that? Grapes, not very profitable. So we're going to end up in pretty bad shape, just like we were with the olives. I mean, if you had purchased, granted, there is a cheaper option to do it. See, now we've got to figure out where we were. All right, I think we were right here, ready for this one. Let's make sure. But yeah, as I look at the trees, I think that's right. Okay, again, wonderful camera angles. All right, can we go? All right, come on, let's find our way. There we go. Yeah, it looks like this is going to be for the olives, and if you had purchased this equipment for, you know, $100,000 plus, and then purchased some olive groves, and then, you know, some vineyards, thinking that, man, we're gonna be rich. Not quite at all. Now your prices, I'm sure, will vary because they do within the game. They'll go up and or down as the calendar days pass by, but let's not kid ourselves. They're not going to go up to the point where these are going to be a huge deal. They'll generally go up 1% or 2%, but not a whole lot more than that. Same thing on the downside. So yeah, we're looking at maybe $4,500 to $5,000 overall, which, considering we paid $47,500 for the vineyard itself, that's, compared to some other purchases we can make in the game, this is definitely not a good return on investment. So at this point, the only reason I would say that you would want to come to Italy, other than for the fact that you're in Italy itself, but in the game, the only reason I can see coming to Italy would be for the oranges. Other than that, I don't really see it. And of course, the oranges are a standard vineyard, so they don't require any great machinery or anything like that. So yeah, a little disappointed at how things are turning out on this map. Would have expected a little bit better balance in the game itself as to the types of returns that you get from these investments. And realistically, I would have expected them to be a little bit more realistically balanced. And I don't mean, when I say realistically, I mean basically, why not try to balance all of these crops and orchards and so on to where it basically doesn't amount to, or matter what you do in the game, you're going to have the same potential to make money. It's just a matter of doing what you prefer, and that way you just leave it up to the player. But here, they are definitely sending you away from these crops, just like what we saw with the rice on the Japanese map. That is definitely not something we would want to mess with, because there's just no money in it. So now we found that there's the same thing going on with the olives and the grapes here on the Italian map. All right, so it looks like we're going to have a little over a halfway full load on this time through. We got a couple more rows to get through if I can get this thing to turn. This is amazing me at how little this thing turns. So yeah, we're going to end up with about a half. So yeah, this is not what I was expecting. I kind of thought the grapes were going to give us a good deal of profit. And what this would open up is it'd be nice if we could own, with the vineyard concept, if we could own our own winery and have the ability to turn these things into wine, and then we should be able to definitely set up some money making. But that's not really the type of game we got going on here. That's more like our other playthrough with Farm Manager, where you would be able to do things like that. Alright, final row. And let's just ram into these trees here. Can't really see where I'm going. There we go. Yeah, all these rocks on the side. I mean, this is right on the beach line. The shoreline here. That seems odd that we would have this many rocks. I suppose they just simply throw those in there so that we can't drive all over the place. Alright, there we go. Let's turn off the working mechanism. And let's see what our final tally is. Alright, let's go ahead and back our way in. There we go. A little bit better than last time, but we're still dumping about half of them outside of where they need to be. $2,500. Alright. So, not what we wanted, but it's what we got. So you're looking at $5 to $6 grand, roughly speaking, on the return for a vineyard, which means it's going to take several cycles before you're going to get anywhere close to what you're looking for out of the grapes. So again, just like I mentioned with the olives, very disappointing from a balance perspective that it's not, that they didn't balance this better with the oranges and the cherries and so forth. But at least you have options on what you can grow. And who knows, maybe we can get these mods going and adjust some of these things to make the gameplay a little more even and allow you to grow and manage what you want to grow and manage, rather than having to worry about focusing on the things that are going to give you the best return. So that's going to do it for now. Thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned next time where we'll choose a new map and who knows what new product we're going to grow and work with. So thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned as we continue our gameplay of Pure Farming 2018.